Welcome to the Fabulous at 50 podcast, where we are changing the aging narrative. I'm your host, Joanne Newduck, and I'm thrilled to bring you stories that matter and celebrate your place in the world. As an advocate for lifelong learning, health, and women's empowerment, I believe it's never too late to live the life you've always imagined. Through lively and informative interviews with inspiring guests, we'll explore a wide range of topics relevant to our global sisterhood of vibrant, inquiring women just like you. Join me for today's episode, and let's start changing the aging narrative together. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. We are going to revisit the aging versus ailment concept that I introduced last week. And today we are going to welcome my dear friend, colleague, and sometimes partner in mischief, Dr. Andrea, who is an award-winning wellness chiropractor practicing in Calgary, Alberta at a wonderful clinic called Divine Spine. And today we are going to tap into that concept of aging versus ailments related to our bone health and the health of our spine. So, Andrea, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So let's kick it off right off the bat with actually what we're going to do is kick it off the bat with introducing your book, because it's so perfect for the concept we're talking about right now. It's entitled Slowing the Aging Process. Go ahead and hold your book up. Yeah. Wonderful. Now, if you're listening, you're not going to be able to see the book, obviously. So go to the show notes. You can click a link and you'll be able to get taken to where this book is. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here, because we both have a similar concept or idea that so often people blame things on aging when it's not really, aging is only one factor. So why don't we dive into just kind of our bone health and our spine health? What is normal?
Sure. So as we get older, it's natural to have some wear and tear, obviously. Where the problem lies is really when we have one side that hurts and the other side that doesn't. And then, of course, people just automatically say, oh, you must be getting older. Let's take, for example, your knees. That's the classic one. Everyone talks about knee pain, and that's a normal sign of aging. The way I look at the body is a little different. So your knees were born at the same time. So if you have right knee pain, but your left knee is perfectly fine, in my mind, that doesn't really make sense that is part of an aging process, because your right knee is not older than your left knee. They're the same age.
I love that. True.
So if one is hurting and the other one is not, then it's not really aging. Now we have to figure out what is going on in the system that one side of you, that one knee or that one hip or the one foot or ankle or elbow or shoulder is hurting more than the other. And a lot of times that's a byproduct of alignment. The best analogy I've come up with is really think of your car and the alignment of your car. If the alignment of your car is off, your tires are going to wear down, and they're going to wear down in a much different pattern. And they're going to wear down faster than what they would typically wear down as well. If you never fix the alignment, is it ever going to go away? The tires are just going to keep wearing down until eventually they get to the point that you can't ride on your tires anymore. The fix is not to keep changing the tires. The fix is to change the alignment. Because once you change the alignment, now the tires stop wearing down. And so when we come to knees, we have to look at the alignment. And Joanne, as you know, I am huge when it comes to feet being the foundation to your house. So
you just got my orthotics. Actually, they're ordered. I picked them up soon.
Excellent. So to me, it is foundational, because your feet are really the foundation to your house. So if your foundation is crooked, that means it doesn't matter what anyone does to try and fix your house, whether it's a chiro, a physio, a massage, an acupuncture. I'm throwing all of us in the same boat. We're all going to try and fix your house in whichever way we can. But if the foundation is crooked, over time, the house will always follow that foundation. So if you find that you've tried lots of things and nothing really seems to stick,
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at your feet. There is something else going on. So when it comes to the knees, we're going to go back to that because lots of people have knee issues as they get older. If your
Right.
feet roll in, or you have flat feet, or if, someone told you, oh, you have bunions or whatnot, those are all byproducts of a certain amount of rolling in. Some people, some
Yeah.
people roll in
I
a
just put
little
my
bit.
hand up saying, yeah,
Yeah.
I have only on one foot. So a
Yeah.
bunion definitely is not. So we're talking about the ailments here, which is great. And then
Yes.
we'll go back and talk about, but what can we expect as a normal process? But yeah, so the feet. So what I hear you saying is like if you have knee issues or even hip issues and sometimes back issues, it's starting in the feet.
Yeah.
And rarely
So,
do you go somewhere and someone's really looking at your feet.
and that's the thing. And a lot of times when I talk to my patients, is it really the feet that's 100% triggering the back pain or knee pain? Maybe not. But it's definitely the feet that are preventing you from healing as quickly as you should. Right? So,
Okay.
right? So let's talk a little bit about when it comes to aligning the spine, aligning the joints, you have to make sure that all the foundations are there. And so feet are definitely important to look at. You need to be in good shoes. As we get older, our body's less capable of adapting to the things we used to do when we were 20. We used to get away with all kinds of
Really?
things when we were 20 that are a whole lot harder to get away with this day and age, right? Especially as we
Right.
get older, the further we get from 20, the slower our body heals. And it's
Okay.
not that we can't, we just have to be more supportive of the system and not expect it to just respond like that, which most of
Right.
us take.
Makes sense. So let me I just want to dive into this a little bit. So if we were to kind of back up the bus a moment and go, okay, we've talked about, when we have misalignments, when we have something only sore on one side or the other, it's not just the aging process. It is a misalignment. Um so let's look at what you can do when there is a misalignment, right? Like
Okay.
what should somebody do if they're having lower back pain or knee pain or just one knee? Like what do you recommend to help correct that?
So when it comes to this is the analogy that I typically say to my patients. Think of having 5 pebbles in your shoes. So you have 5 pebbles in your shoes and you're trying to walk. And at first, it's annoying. You can get away with it. It's annoying. But the longer you walk, the more steps that happen, the more irritating those teeny tiny pebbles become. It
Mm,
gets to the point that you can hardly walk anymore. So let's say you have 5 pebbles. Let's say you go to chiro and it gets rid of 1 pebble. You take a pain pill and it gets rid of 1 pebble. Let's say you stretch and it gets rid of 1 pebble, but you still have 2 pebbles. Those
mm,
2 pebbles are still going to rattle around in your shoes, so to speak. So
right.
even though what you're doing is helping, you're
Yeah.
not really feeling better. So it's never just a one shot thing. Like when I talk to patients, it's never just, oh, just get adjusted, everything will be perfect. Because in the grand scheme of things, I may only be 1 pebble. Because if you're doing all these
Mm,
other things that keep triggering the problem, there's only so much that I can do by
right.
removing, even if I remove 4 pebbles, but you still have that one. And so we look at as we age, we're really looking at all the elements of aging because they all interplay when it comes to pain, how well we feel, how much energy we have. It's about the food we take and how much pro-inflammation is occurring in our system. It's about how we sleep. It's about our stress levels, the things that you talk about all the time. It's about alignment of the spine. It's how you take care of your body. And yes, maybe when we were younger, we didn't really pay that much attention to all of these things. But as we get older and we start noticing that things are not responding the way they should,
Yeah.
now is the time to change. Now is the time to
Right.
make a difference because we still have 20, 30, 40 years to go that if we don't change what we've done in the past, it's only going to get worse. So I kind of
Absolutely.
did this huge long
And
tangent because it's hard to just say,
yeah,
just get adjusted. Because sometimes that's not enough. Like with
That's
you,
not
we had
enough.
to look
So,
at foundation. We had to look at
yeah,
orthotics. We had to look at other things to help support the
yeah,
system. And that tends to be a little bit more at my direction. I'm not strictly just get adjusted because sometimes it's not
right.
enough.
It's more holistic, and I appreciate that, because when I work with my clients as well, it's not just, oh, I want to lose weight, we're just going to look at your food. We're looking at your food, your sleep,
Mhm.
what are you doing for your mindset, what is your stress levels, and you look at that as well. You do
Mhm.
this the same food plan you lead your clients through as well. So it's very much taking that holistic approach. And
Yes.
one of the things you were talking about is, you can be hurt when you're younger, but often you can shake it off. But one of the things that I know, and I bet you would agree, is that mismanaged acute pain, meaning sudden onset pain or injuries, are often what causes chronic pain later
Yeah.
on. So whether that was in our 20s and 30s and now in our, 40s, 50s, 60s, we're feeling it from the past. What I'm hearing you say is it's not too late to still make some better corrections so that it
Yeah.
doesn't become really debilitating when we get older. I heard a stat and it was outrageous. I won't quote numbers, but it was like a ridiculous number of people that go into assisted living or full care living are because they cannot get off the toilet, on and off the toilet by themselves. Their
Mhm.
knees are so bad that they can't do that. So now I want to get into what are some things we can do to make things better. But I'm going to back up the bus. I mentioned that before. I'm going to back up the bus. And what I'd like you to do is, can you take us through a little bit of the journey of the bones in our body from when we're younger to now, not on the ailment side, but the natural? Let's pretend somebody was super duper healthy. The aging process is still going to take a little bit of a toll, but at different rates for people. But can you
Mhm.
explain what someone can expect, even if they're taking good care of themselves?
I mean, over time, there is certain amount of wear and tear, just like in
Okay.
a car, right? We'll go back to that same analogy. But as we age, you will have some hiccups, so to speak, of where you'll have bits and pieces of pain because you either lifted something wrong, you twisted wrong, you bent over wrong, you pick up the grandkids. But
Okay.
technically, when it comes to the bones, there should be maybe some wear and tear in the sense of a little bit of arthritis, but not a crazy amount. It should not
Okay.
be debilitating to the point where the doctor's like, you have arthritis, there's nothing we can do. There's some
Okay.
stuff we can do. Right. So, yes, is there going to be wear and tear? Yes. But wear and tear in the spine does not necessarily equate to pain. And that's part of the
Okay.
problem. So, you can
Okay.
have
Good to
wear
know.
and tear. So, one of the things that is always fascinating to me is you can have a spine that looks just about perfect, and the person has tremendous amount of pain. Or
Interesting.
I have a patient who is 87 years old. She still cross country skis. She still does all kinds of stuff. She comes in once a month for the tune up because she feels a little tired. And when we took x-rays of her spine, it was awful. I looked at it, I was like,
Wow.
whoa, like if I had looked at that before I knew her, I would have hesitated to adjust her.
Wow.
So it
Interesting.
is, yeah. So a lot of times, just because you are told you have arthritis does not necessarily mean that that is a blanket. I can't do anything else.
Okay.
Because
Can
if you
you,
have,
oh, sorry, keep going.
no, I was just going to say, because if you have moments where you feel better and then moments where you feel worse, then that means your body's capable of healing. And if you're capable of healing, arthritis doesn't come and go, it's always there. That means your
Ooh,
body's capable
okay.
of
I love, let's say
adapting
that
to it.
again. If
Yeah.
you have times when you're feeling well and then there's flare ups,
Mhm.
then it means you are capable of healing, because
Yeah.
arthritis really. So, can you, for the people listening, I think there's different types of arthritis, right? Can you explain when people just talk, we use it as a blanket term, but it's not all the same. Can you explain what you mostly see within the spine or in joints. What is arthritis? And then we can delve a little bit into what can we do to, because I know we both have some ideas on how we can actually improve that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are the big guns when it comes to arthritis, the autoimmune type arthritis, the rheumatoid arthritis. Those are a little different. But then again, in the way my brain works is an autoimmune arthritic process is the body attacking itself. In the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really make sense. Your body's attacking itself because there's something going on. There's a pebble. There's something that's irritating the system. That is something, it takes a lot of work. It's not something you can just change, but there's stuff you can do to help minimize some of that. The lesser, if I want to say lesser, grade arthritis is the osteoarthritis or the DJD or the degenerative joint disease. These are arthritis of wear and tear. That's where I come in because wear and tear, if we go back to the car analogy, it's a misalignment. You fix the alignment, you change the way the body responds to this wear and tear. So if you moments where that knee doesn't hurt and you're like, oh, I feel pretty good. And then the next day it hurts again. That means at some point your body was able to adapt to that arthritic process or to the arthritis in your knee. If your body's able to adapt to that in moments of time, and then other moments it gets, oh, okay, enough is enough. Whatever you did was too much for me. That means you're capable of staying in the position of not having pain. We just got to figure out what is the pebble? What is that irritation? What is the thing that keeps irritating the body, that keeps triggering it to go backwards again? Because if you have moments
can be that misalignment, but it also can be, and what you and I both know is that diet has a big play.
Huge.
If we have inflammation in our diets, then that's going to show up. I know that when I switched and I follow the metabolic balance eating plan, I feel fantastic. I had a client recently go from each morning waking up and rating her pain 8 or 9 out of 10 down to a 6 within less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
Right. Within the first 4 days, in fact, that inflammation was, tamped down just simply by changing the diet. So you're not just going to change your diet and all your pain goes away, but you're taking out different pebbles there.
Yeah.
What else would you recommend with that? I know we're both big on hydration, so I'll let you touch base on that. And then I wouldn't mind it just touching, not that we're going to advise people to take any sort of supplement, but if it's right for them, like what do you think people should look into? So water and possible supplements and food.
Yeah. So one of the things I talk about in my practice is there is 3 kinds of stress that affect the system: physical stress, emotional stress, and chemical stress. All 3 of them can trigger pain. So it's not always just what you did. It's what you thought and ate and did all at the same time, which became this perfect storm that tipped you over the edge. Because let's be honest, bending over to pick up a pencil is really not what triggered the pain. It's what set it over the edge, but it's not what triggered the pain. So if we go back to the chemical, so we all know water.
I'm just laughing. I'm sorry. I have to interject. Like, mine once was I was leaning over to grab a Kleenex, for goodness sakes. But it was everything I did up to that moment that was the issue.
It was. And so if you look at water, we all know water is important, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it time and time again.
Grabbing my glass of water here, pointing at it, taking a swig.
So part of what I want you to think of it more like pain management. So if you think of all of the discs in your spine, all of the meniscus and the bursas, all these terms that we've heard, these are all like sponges. And so if you don't drink enough water, you are dehydrating, so to speak. So now you take those sponges and you shrink them. If you shrink those sponges, because if that disc is like a sponge, if it dries out, it shrinks. When you take a dried out sponge, can you bend it or move it? Not really. It's really stiff. So if you wake up every morning really stiff, you have to look at how much water you're drinking. Because now if you take that same sponge and you wet it, it gets nice and thick, and now you can do whatever you want with it. It's the same idea. If you are dehydrated.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. If you are dehydrated and you are not drinking enough water, and as Joanne and I both say, it's half your weight in ounces. minimum. It's a lot more water than we think. The 8 glasses
Mhm.
a day is not enough, because if you are 6'9", 250, 300 pounds, or you're 4'10", you don't both need the same amount of water. So it's half your
Exactly.
weight in ounces, right? So if you have a lot of pain, make sure, and a lot of stiffness, make sure you're drinking enough water. Very important. It is one of the big ones. When it comes to supplements, there's 3 top ones that I recommend all the time. I recommend a good vitamin D, because vitamin D helps your body heal. If you don't have enough vitamin D, you are not going to heal as fast as what you think you should. The other one I recommend is magnesium. If you do a magnesium glycinate, it tends to be a little less harsh on your bowels, because one of the side effects of magnesium is loose bowels, just like the side effect of iron is constipation. So it's just so
Yeah.
you just have to manage how much you're taking of it to get through it properly. Because here's the thing, if you don't have enough magnesium, you'll have more muscle spasms, trigger points, Charlie horses, restless legs at night, as well as headaches. It's a big one.
Mm.
Magnesium is part of over 300 chemical processes that happens in our system. And it is a mineral
That's
that gets used
huge.
up in tiny
300. Sorry,
amounts.
say that again.
300.
300 chemical processes related to magnesium.
Yep.
Really
And
big to have that in our diets.
it's huge. And it's not really easy to get out of the diet. It's not something that is just easily available. You have to actively seek out the foods. It is also a mineral that gets used up in time of stress. Hello, COVID, right? Like we have just
That's the
come
point,
out.
because lots of times they're like, oh, you should be able to just get in your diet. But the reason why we need to supplement is because we don't have a stress-free life. If we had a
Mhm.
stress-free life, all of us, we could probably just get it from what we're eating. But this is something that we both feel strongly that you need to have a good quality supplement.
Yeah. And of course,
And your
the
third
last
one?
one is fish oil or your omega-3. Really important. Fish oil brings down pain, brings down inflammation, and it's your brain building fat. If we want to try and stay away from um, dementia and Alzheimer's, we really have to be on fish oil. Unless you're eating fish a lot, but you have to make sure that it's clean fish and it's not full of mercury. And the only caveat to that is that I'll throw out there is please, please, please get good quality fish oil. Do not
Yeah.
skimp. Do not get the cheapest stuff you can find. The most expensive process is distilling the mercury out of the fish. If you get really cheap fish oil, there's a piece of the puzzle there that's missing. Do not skimp on that. Think of it as
Yeah.
part of
Then you get
your,
into all the toxins, and a lot of
yes.
this is in your book, right? A lot
Yeah.
of what you're sharing, just putting it out there because it is so good. Like just say the chapters, like your book talks about sleeping well and eating
Yeah, there's
well and
5 pillars. There's sleep well, think well, move well, age well, and live well, right? So it's all about
right.
things that we can do. It's about removing the pebbles. I am going to finish on one thing, and this is something that you touch on all the time, is stress. Stress is one of the pillars that triggers inflammation. Not just inflammation, sorry, but inflammation and pain. When I have patients that come in and they've been coming in on a regular basis, and that stress level of theirs just shoots out of the park,
Mm.
pain pattern changes drastically. And so
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to pay attention to pain, you do pay
To
attention to pain,
stress.
to stress. Think of it like we have one response to stress. And you've heard me say this before. It's like a bear coming at you, right? So when a bear comes at you, you go into that fight or flight response and you're there to fight off the bear. So all the blood goes into your extremities and you're ready to fight like crazy, or you're ready to run away. But at some point, the bear goes away. The problem with emotional stress is the bear comes at you. Now he puts his hand around your shoulder and now you're fighting him 24/7. And we were never designed to fight a bear 24 hours of the day. And so if you're
Exactly.
trying to sleep or you are trying to eat and you're struggling on either or, is because your brain is saying to you, what are you doing? We are fighting a bear. How could you possibly be sleeping right now? Or how could you possibly be eating? And so you have
Yeah.
to manage stress. And this is where you need to connect with Joanne in all of her programs. Because if you cannot manage your stress, this is a good plug. You got to do it. But
Thanks.
it's true. If you
I'll
can't
pay
manage
you
your
later.
stress, I can't help you. I can't change physical stress that comes through in your system. So I can do everything right and you will still hurt because the one pebble of stress is still there. And so you have to
Right.
manage stress. Very important.
Fantastic. Now, before we go into sort of our conclusion and so forth, I hope you're okay with me asking this, is you mentioned the three really interesting supplements that you think people should be taking, and they can speak to their healthcare provider on what's the right amounts and so forth for them. And the fish oil, the magnesium, and the vitamin D. I know that there's going to be people out there going, well, what about calcium? I'm told to take lots of calcium for my bones. Can you give us your opinion on that?
So calcium is important if you're low. But one of the things that makes it so we go down the calcium path because of osteoporosis, right? And so, sure, when we hit menopause, things change in our system. But there are outside ways you can do it. If you're going to do calcium, you cannot do calcium on its own because think of your bones like a brick wall, and calcium is the bricks. So if you build a brick wall with brick on top of brick on top of brick, it's a great wall that I can push over. You need the mortar and you need the rebar. You need all these other minerals that help the calcium do what it's supposed to do. So if you're going to
Right.
do the calcium, you need a bone builder. You need a supplement that is a whole complex that's designed to build the bone, not a calcium directly off the shelf with nothing else to support it. The
Thank
other
you.
thing is, if you're doing the calcium because of the whole osteoporosis, osteopenia thing, remember the fastest way to strengthen the bones is weight bearing exercises. You need to get in the gym. You need to lift weights. That is what is going to make your bones stronger. And I'm not talking about the 5 or the 2 pound weights. Your purse is heavier than that. Like I'm talking about you need to get weights.
It is.
It
Stand
is.
there. You can stand in the grocery line lifting your purses. Why not?
That's exactly right. You need to have against resistance. Water aerobic is amazing. It does nothing for bone building. And so you have to do weight bearing. Going for a walk is amazing for your legs, does nothing for your arms. And when we trip, what breaks is our wrists. We have to go
Mm.
in the gym. We have to lift weights. It's important. If you're not sure how to do it, there's lots of easy programs where you have one-on-one, not very long sessions. You don't have to be in a gym around all kinds of people you're uncomfortable with. Connect with myself or Joanne. We'll kind of guide you a little bit, but it's really important to add that to what you're doing, not just the calcium. You have to add the movement as well.
Thank you. I knew that you had a great way of explaining that because I often get asked, and it is a tricky one. Like, there's
Mhm.
actually some bad side effects if you take it only by itself too much. We won't get into all of that, but it's important to know a supplement is a supplement, it's an addition. But doing something as simple as, if you eat canned salmon, squish the bones, like mush those bones up, and actually, that's a
Mhm.
nutritional way of getting calcium. People get weirded out about that, but that's what we used to eat, and it makes us
Mhm.
healthier. What I'd love to do is so off the top, let's see if I've learned my lessons here. So some really big things that we can do to help slow the aging process, because we don't want to stop it, because there's only
No.
one way to stop it. We don't want to stop it. We want to keep aging because that means we're getting older and we're living, but we want to live a vibrant life. So get our water because we need that hydration. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Eating, take a look at our diets. Yeah. Often
Very
losing
important.
even 5-10 pounds. We didn't get into this, but I heard some stat about just losing 5-10 pounds. The amount of pressure that is taken off our knees and our ankles is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay. What else? Probably what I love is that you weren't sitting there going, you have to go and see a chiropractor all the time. Although, if somebody has a misalignment, it's a really good thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to pause here. Can you explain? Some people go, I'm scared of chiropractic, but a chiropractor means basically a doctor of bones or of the spine. You don't all use the same type of techniques. So can
No.
you do a quick explanation on that?
Sure. So there is probably, I would say, 25 to 30 different chiropractic techniques that exist out there. In Canada, the push is really for the manual based type chiropractic. It's a great
Which is
technique.
interesting.
It's only one of. the many other
Yeah.
techniques that exist. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just one. But it happens to be the one that is widely used in Canada because we only have one school in Canada, and that one school really pushes the manual adjusting. It is what it is. So people have this misconception that chiropractic is the popping, twisting, cracking. That's the only way to get adjusted. And that's not true. There's so many other techniques. Take, for example, my technique. I use a computerized based adjusting tool. There's no popping, there is no twisting, no cracking. You're sitting in a chair and I'm coming from behind. And the instrument taps until the bone moves. Once the bone moves, there is a piezoelectric crystal, it doesn't really matter. There's a sensor inside that senses that motion and instantly stops. So people that say,
Nice.
oh, my chiropractor's never been able to get my back to crack, I can get it to go because it'll keep tapping until it goes. Now, you'll be really sore the next day and you may not like me, but we can get it to go. So it's more speed over force. You don't always have to have the manual. There's lots of other techniques out there. And what I do is, again, not just the only thing. There's lots of other instrument-based technique. Now, do I like mine? Of course, I think mine's the best, but it's mine.
Of course. And I quite like it as well. I mean, we could talk about a whole different thing, but you helped me with the migraines I was having. It was so bad, like nothing was working. And you did this wonderful protocol. And I was like, oh, I walked out of here and it really reduced the number. And honestly, for quite a while, I haven't had them. So I'm going to go back to my school review. Okay. We've
Yes.
got our fluids. We've got the eating. We've got, if you're out of alignment, get some adjustments, take a look at our feet, because that could be the problem. Get orthotics. It's worth the investment of orthotics if needed. Because quite often we look at stuff and go, oh, that's so expensive. But the reality is, if we don't invest in our health now, we will be forced to invest in our illness later. Right?
100%.
So
Yes.
the difference between aging and ailment to do with our spines and our bones is normal aging. There will be gradual deterioration, but at different rates, but not necessarily pain. You can have people that are in their 80s and 90s that don't have pain. So if someone has pain, that falls under what we're using as an ailment, a condition,
Yes.
an imbalance. And at any age, some things can be done to help bring this better. Did I pass the test?
Yes, very well. Like for me, I wanted to, like, my mom is the epitome of perfect aging. Like, we celebrated her 80th birthday in January on the beach with her in a bikini, strutting around.
In Mexico.
In Mexico. Like,
it was amazing.
That is, you can age very well. Just because you're 80 or 85 does not mean you have to be like what they portray us to be on TV.
Yeah.
You can be healthy. She walks 5 miles a day. She's out every day. Like, but she does the things that she needs to do to be healthy.
She takes care of herself.
She does.
All right. What a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for being on. If you're interested, Dr. Andrea and I did a different conversation. I believe it was like Stand Taller, Live Longer.
I think so, yeah.
Something along those lines in one of our previous, you'll have to scroll back quite a few episodes. Maybe we'll redo that one because that was so long ago. We could have that conversation again. I'd love to have you back on. And just as we're leaving, in a really quick nutshell, what do you think are the top 3 things people can do? I think I've mentioned them there, but really, what are the top 3 things, little pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with people?
Check your posture. Structure is the foundation to how your body functions. You have to check your posture, okay. Drink your water, and make sure you eat healthy. If you put bad gas in your car, you will get a bad running car. I mean, not the way to say it, but the analogy is there. You have to take care of this is your temple. You only have one of them. You can change a car whenever you want. You can change out parts right, left, and center. You got what you got. And get adjusted. Find a chiropractor you trust and get adjusted, because your nervous system controls everything in your body. And if your nervous system isn't functioning, you by default will not function properly. Find a chiropractor
Well,
and get adjusted.
thank you so much for being on today.
You're welcome.
And
This was a
take care,
pleasure.
everyone. Please check out the show notes. There'll be information. Andrea's full bio is in there, and a link to where you can get her book and how to reach her. And if you have any questions, please reach out to either of us, and we're happy to answer. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. But before you leave, I'm curious. What pearl of wisdom are you taking away from today's episode? I do hope it held some inspiration or information for you to live your best life. If you are not yet part of our sisterhood, I invite you to join our community by visiting our website, fabulousat50.com, and you'll receive a free copy of our ebook, Make Mine Fabulous, 21 Ways to Energize Your Life. It is packed with loads of tips and tricks. Plus, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a review to let us know what you think. Remember, keep choosing fabulous. It's never too late to live the life you deserve. Catch you on the next episode.